deal with that. Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for Finance Committee for today, October 20. We've got a long approval list to go through, and in the absence of Commissioner Stevens, I'd like to appoint our chairman to serve as the third member of the Finance Committee for today. And with that, we have no public comment, I presume.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And we'll go into item number 1, minutes for the 15th meeting, September 15th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please. Approved 3-0, sorry. Item 2 is our audit presentation. Trey.
How are you all doing this afternoon?
Very good. Thank you for coming, Trey.
Sure.
Trey is a road warrior these days. He was in Myrtle Beach this morning. He's presenting to us this afternoon. It has to be with Daytona tomorrow.
And leaving from here to go to Daytona to talk tomorrow. So yeah, that's it's been pretty wild getting back in the saddle after a couple of years of sitting at home doing these things. So.
Good.
But real quick, again, my name's Trey Scott with Malden & Jenkins. I was the partner who oversaw the audit of the Commission's 2021 financial statements, and pleased to be here with you all today to talk about or discuss the results of that audit. Just real quickly about Malden & Jenkins, we've audited you all for a little bit, but we've been around for a little over 100 years. We serve over 550 clients throughout the Southeast. About 110 of those are water and sewer type districts like you all, so we certainly have the experience to serve you. As far as the audit is concerned, we issued a clean opinion, had no findings or no management points. That certainly is a testament to the hard work that management and the finance team do on a daily basis. I was telling them yesterday, and Commissioner Duncan, I spoke with you too, I kind of was going through the financial statements, maybe trying to find some things to point out that maybe we could improve upon or do a little bit better, but the balance sheet's very strong. You had a good current year operations, good revenues, and less expenditures than in the prior year. And you got great cash flows from operations as well, and certainly taking those cash flows and reinvest them in the system, which is what we want to see. So, again, good solid set of financial statements for fiscal year 21. There's some certain things that GAS or governmental auditing standards require me to communicate to you all. Those will all be printed also as well, but there were a few things that I wanted to point out. One, we had no auditor proposed adjustments, which is a great thing. Basically, the information that we were provided, we didn't have to adjust or fix. If we did, we'd probably be talking more about findings and management points than we are right now. So that's certainly a positive thing as well. We had no disagreements with management. We had no significant issues that we had to discuss with them. So from an audit standpoint, it was a very good, clean, smooth audit for fiscal year 21. Outside of that, one new little thing that you all don't normally have is a single audit where we take a look at any kind of federal grant monies you have coming in related to those GFA loans. That's actually considered federal money that's passing through the state. So we had to perform some additional procedures related to that, had no problems, no issues, all of that stuff's being handled appropriately. So outside of that, just want to make sure that you all are aware we do provide free continuing education only to our clients, newsletters and those kinds of things as well. Hope that management can take part in those value-added services. But outside of that, it certainly was a pleasure to serve you all, and we look forward to serving you in the future. If you have any questions about the audit, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
Well, Trey, first of all, I want to thank you for what you and your team did in working with the utilities team. I'm very pleased at the results at the very brief report, because it shows that we've done everything that we're supposed to be doing, accountable to our ratepayers and the taxpayers in Glynn County. So thank you for confirming that, for one. And then for the others, just to open it up for any discussion or comments to the panel here.
I did have a question. I was looking through the section on the pension, and this is actually on page 28 in the report. It's indicating the inactive plan members' current receiving benefits is 24, and the inactive plan members entitled to but not receiving benefits are 46. So I suppose those are vested people that haven't met all the qualifications yet to start collecting it?
I'm pretty sure that's accurate, yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
But
And
y'all
then-
correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
That is correct, okay. And then the other question I had is, on the pension also, in meeting the actuarial assumption on it, are they using the smoothing method over for like a 5-year period?
We're talking about when we're amortizing any of those changes? Yes, absolutely. I mean, the ones that are required, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of up to, well, it's not really up to the actuary. GASB actually kind of defines on how some of that should be amortized. But yes, what needs to be smoothed is smooth.
It's a 5-year window?
It's like 5 point, yeah, I think it depends on what it is, but it's, average around 5, yes.
Okay. All right. Those are my 2 questions.
Technically, every change has a different amortization depending on the change.
That's correct.
So if you pull up the actual pension reports, every change is made every year, 2, 3 years it's in there. It actually works out as a separate amortization, and they give you a combined amortization at the bottom.
That's how actuaries keep.
That's how
That's-
actuaries keep their jobs.
that's
because nobody
exactly
else
right.
knows what to do.
And make me pull my hair out trying to understand what they're doing. It wasn't that bad, 5 years ago, we just started this. Now we're 10 years almost into implementation, and so we've got different changes from different years, that are being amortized, so.
I think this report is certainly a testament to how well this organization is run, and our team and finance people, the fact that we're short of staff, have done a really phenomenal job. And so thank you for bringing that up to us and confirming what I think we already knew.
Sure, absolutely.
That's great.
I've got 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
One on page 11 here, you say about the new financial reporting standards. You say many others are coming. Can you expound on that?
I can. There are probably, we're all the way up to GASB 97 right now that we're going to have to implement over the course of the next few years. As far as having a significant impact on you all, GASB 96 may be the only one that I can really think of. It deals with subscription-based information technology arrangements. It's kind of an extension onto the lease standard that we early implemented this year. But basically says we're going to have to start recording maybe a liability and an asset related to those kind of arrangements if we have such arrangements. But outside of that, I don't know that it's any of those other big ones are going to affect you all. They have some projects in the works, however, that are going to affect kind of how we report things. I don't know if you're familiar with GASB 34, but it really basically turned how we report financial information for a government on its head. And we're getting ready to see another GASB 34 type standard come out in about the next 4 or 5 years. So GASB continues to make sure that they're relevant by issuing a bunch of these standards and well, I guess making sure that I'm staying on my toes as well, helping you all get those implemented.
Are
So.
these state standards or federal standards?
Well, it's just governmental accounting, so they're more federal. That's our standard setting body for governmental accounting is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So for any government, they're going to have to report under GASB. So I guess you could consider it federal.
What's GASB mean?
Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
And do you know what our debt service coverage is now?
Off the top of my head, I know it's in the MD&A.
It's in the MD&A as part of it. It was over 5.
Where is that?
Yeah, it's better than it was last year. I do remember that.
It's in the first 7 or 8 pages.
5.2.
And how does that relate to, what page is on 5 point, what page is that
What
on?
page is that, Francis?
Page 10 of the actual audit.
Of the actual audit, it's not in this presentation.
It's 5.2?
Yes, sir.
And what was it last year, did you?
410.
4.1, yeah. Moving in the right direction. I guess, but we issued some debt though here recently, so
We'll still be well above the required 1.1.
1 point,
policy
right.
1.7. We'll still be well above that number, even with the issued debt.
What would you like to see us at? What would you recommend?
That's a really good question. I want to make sure that you're certainly above what you're required to be at, but outside of that, I mean, you all know which kind of projects and things you're going to have out there, so as far as, you know, what kind of cash we've got sitting around to do those things. So I hate to give you a specific number simply because I think you all would know better, or management would know better about that than I would.
I think I'm going to ask a question that our commissioner who would be here is not here about. Are there any funds that we could be investing someplace else and making more money on?
See, that's part of the problem is state law kind of hamstrings you on what you can and can't invest in. We have a lot of stuff in Georgia Fund 1, go ahead.
I was about to say, Commissioner Trustee, we'll have a package for you that Ms. Wilson will share. That'll show about $10.5 million of our existing income being, or excuse me, $2.5 million of our existing reserves being invested. So
$10.5 additional million from what was currently invested. That was being allocated at the end of the month, and the timing put it over until the October statements.
And while I've interrupted the conversation, just as a reminder, even with the bond, remember that we have flat-loaded our debt service. We structured that deal in such a way that our existing debt service would continue to be flat until it fell off. So there's no increase in our debt service coverage. It's going to be, or excuse me, our debt service. It'll still be a flat coverage.
I do have a question. How many times, or what did you say percentage-wise as an estimate, do you get a audit that doesn't have any suggested corrections, any findings, any management points, or anything like that?
It's probably around 20 to 25%. I mean, you're usually going to have something,
Right.
whether it be just a little piddly management point or something like that. So, I mean, my job isn't to go in and find stuff. I'm not poking around to try to find things, but if something does present itself, we're absolutely going to say something. I mean, we want you all to be as efficient and doing the best you can as far as your controls are concerned. Yeah, we certainly wouldn't keep it a secret if we had something to report to you.
Other comments or questions?
None for me.
Then Chair will entertain a motion for acceptance.
I make a motion.
Have a motion, I'd like to hear a second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Okay, motion and second to accept the financial audit. Any comments, questions there? All in favor? Pass.
Assuming the audit is approved tomorrow, we will release to the city, county, and the state soon thereafter as part of our required reporting.
Thank you, Trey.
You bet. Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Hope you have a good evening. I think unless y'all need me, I'll get on the road.
Drive
All right,
safely.
safe travels, Trey.
Absolutely. Thanks.
A1A is prettier than 95.
That's for sure.
Everything's prettier than 995.
Okay, item 3 is our fiscal year-end 2021 year-end transfer.
Yes, sir. As just reported in the audit, we had a strong fiscal year with net operating revenue of $2.1 million. Operating revenues for the year were $33.2 million. Our operating expenses were $20.6 million and non-operating expenses were $10.2 million. Non-operating revenue expenses are debt service and interest payments, our bad debt expenses, and any planned reserve transfers that occur to the R&R reserve and the capital reserve. So now that the audit is over and we have that net operating revenue of $2.1 million, we have, through effective management of our operational funds, we were able to, we now can transfer some of these net operating revenues over to elective reserves. We had the savings in the group health insurance by going to the self-funded health insurance. We'll get an update on that from our wellness provider tomorrow. But those savings were over $300,000 by making that change. We did have some difficulties filling our open positions throughout the pandemic. And then, of course, we were unable to send our employees to external training opportunities, so we created some additional, between health insurance, the positions, training, and some other ancillary personnel cost savings. We saved a little over $900,000, and then we saved about $700,000 on some larger items such as our investment fees. We changed who we were doing investment banking with, saved some significant fees there. We had a reduction in pump station electricity cost, Some of that was from doing better maintenance and making sure we didn't have clogged pumps that we're trying to run. Odor control, we changed our odor control philosophies up a little bit and saved some money there. And then we had a significant reduction in legal fees for the year. So all told, look on the current cash balances and our upcoming cash flow needs. Staff is comfortable recommending a total transfer of $1.7 million from revenues generated in fiscal year 21. I've outlined 3 potential areas we could transfer that money to. At the bottom there, $300,000 to the group insurance reserve. To build that group insurance reserve, as that's if we have overages and self-funding, where that would come from. $300,000 to front load some more money towards our pension program, to the unfunded liability, and then the balance of $1.1 million to the repair and replacement reserve for the completion of capital projects.
Okay, thank you. The Chair will entertain a
Chairman,
motion.
I'd like to make a motion. I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission authorize the transfer of $300,000 to the group insurance reserve, $300,000 to the Brunswick-Glynn County Water and Sewer Retirement Plan, and $1.1 million, or $1,100,000 to the repair and replacement reserve from net operating revenue generated in fiscal year 2021.
I'll second that. Doesn't it need to say to go to before the full commission?
Yes, sir, that should say to the full commission, my apologies.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're.
It'll amend it to, and to say,
Recommend to the full commission.
recommend approval to the full commission.
Okay, a couple things I want to state to be sure I'm clear on. And as I understand it, this amount that would be transferred was money that was budgeted for specific expenses. And the facts are is through efficiencies in operations and reduction in costs due to not being able to provide the training and not being able to fill some vacancies, we were not able to actually expend the majority of these funds. So it's not excess budget. It's in other years we would have consumed these funds.
That's correct.
Right. Okay. So due to operating efficiencies and our inability to spend those funds because of, frankly, the COVID virus limiting our ability there, frankly, it looks like a savings.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to best apply that by helping to support our group insurance for employees in terms of the reserve, and then the pay down basically some more of the unfunded liability of the retirement plan. That's always a good thing to get ahead of the curve where we can. We're making good progress there. And then obviously transfer the lion's share to the repair and replacement reserve. So that helps to perform major maintenance on the system.
Andrew, what's our unfunded liability on the retirement fund?
1.8 million,
1.8.
We're funded at what percentage?
a little over 80% right now. 80 point something, it's not 80.
And you always want to be at least above 70%.
Always want to be at least above 70. They consider it fully funded above 90. So
Moving in the right
we're
direction.
moving in the right direction. That 1.8 million is a $400,000 reduction from where we were this point last year.
I have a question about the group insurance reserve. What kind of reserve do we have in there right now?
619,000. So this would be putting us close to $1 million in that reserve. And essentially what we do, we budget for group insurance up to a certain amount.
Right.
And it's an operating expense until we go over that amount, and then we would draw from the reserve at that point.
Right.
So the idea is we wouldn't not have to touch this, but we know in a self-funded environment, we could have a year where our expenses exceed what we project just because of claims as they come in. So this allows us not to have a budgetary issue should that occur.
But we'll have a pretty good reserve now.
We'll have a pretty good reserve now at that
That's an
point. Yes, sir.
excellent-
It should be adequate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this just strengthens our position in regards to the reserves for pension,
Right.
for employee insurance coverage, and for our R&R.
Projects, right. That's
But
correct.
like Commissioner Duncan said, we should not anticipate having this every year.
No, sir.
If we had been able to hire the people we need to hire, we wouldn't have this.
We wouldn't have anywhere near this amount. No, sir.
And we need to hire those people.
We are working diligently at that, sir.
Yeah, I think there's no question, hiring more people and the training is very important for our staff. But, you know, we didn't have any opportunities for that, and so at least the money is going back into the system here. Correct. Which is a good thing.
Final comments, questions, please?
I'm in agreement with all the numbers here.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 3-0.
Okay.
So we'll recommend this to the full board. Item 4 is the design build contract for Dunbar Creek. That's what we heard in the last meeting. Andrew?
Brief overview from a finance perspective here. We'll be doing a rehab project at the Dunbar Creek plant on St. Simon's Island. This is a design build project, so you have phase 1 and phase 2 services. This is the awarding of phase 1 services to the highest scoring proposal, which is submitted by BRW Construction out of Savannah, who will be teaming with Hussey Gay Bell and DeYoung Engineers to complete the project. Phase 1 services will be paid for out of the R&R Reserve project number 2106 that was budgeted as a portion of the capital projects plan for this year. So it's $53,300 of commitment for phase 1 services. And then after phase 1, they will generate what is known as a guaranteed maximum price for us to consider to award for phase 2 at that time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Finance Committee recommend the full commission award a contract for phase 1 services. Phase 1 services for the progressive design build services for Dunbar Creek WPCF rehabilitation to BRW Construction LLC in the amount of $53,300.
I'll second the motion.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Call for the vote. Those in favor? 3-0, it passes. Thank you. Item 5 is Academy Creek Influent VFD replacement.
Yes, sir. Academy Creek has 4 variable frequency drives that operate the Influent pumps at that station there. We went out for pricing and then requested pricing from our plant contractor that's doing the work. Best value would be to award this contract to Pump and Process Equipment to replace these 4 VFDs. $91,988 for total installation of those 4 125 horsepower VFDs. And this would be funded out of the Academy Creek operating budget to avoid any confusion with the GFA funding.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Finance Committee recommend the full commission award a contract to Pump and Process Equipment for the replacement of 4 VFDs at the Academy Creek Influent pumping station in the amount of $91,988.
I'll second the motion.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, those in favor? Passes 3-0. Thank you. And then item 6 is the North Mainland Waterloo engineering contract.
Yes, sir. We went out for our engineering services for North Mainland water loops to increase water reliability and fire protection in the North Mainland district. Had 8 proposals received, and 3-member team scored those proposals. This is funded at a project 2103 in the R&R Reserve as part of the capital projects plan. Budgeted funding is $1.25 million. The cost of the engineering, including construction phase services, is $214,000. The recommended firm is Four Waters Engineering out of Jacksonville. We've done extensive work with them in the past.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Finance Committee recommend to the full commission award a contract for engineering services for Four Waters Engineering in the amount of $214,000 for the North Mainland Water Loops project.
I'll second.
Okay, questions or comments? Hearing none, those in favor? It passes. Thank you. And then Pump Station 4044 engineering contract, number 7.
Yes, sir. This is a funded project 2105 in the capital projects plan for 2021. LEA, Level Engineering Associates, is a firm out of Valdosta that was working with a private developer to improve this station when there was a unsolicited proposal for a apartment complex going in near the mall. That project has fallen through, but we still need to improve the station. LEA has proceeded with the work as on part of the private developer and has begun with the work, so we requested a cost proposal from them to finish the work. $71,750 is the project calls for engineering, and that includes construction phase services.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Finance Committee recommend the full commission award a contract for engineering services to Lovell Engineering Associates, P.C., in the amount of $71,750 for Pump Station 4044 Rehab Project.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please. Passes 3-0, thank you. And then the final approval item is for leak adjustment.
Yes, sir. The University of Georgia's Marine Extension Service had a water leak going down to their boat dock and ran up quite a large water bill. So anything over $2,000, according to City of Brunswick ordinances, requires us to bring it to the commission for approval. You can see their usage was in the month of June 12.5 times their normal average and 9 times their normal average in July. So the calculated leak adjustment is $6,040.23. Their usage has returned back to normal. In that $6,000 is $113 of late fees that were incurred because of the leak. So those get adjusted as well.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Finance Committee recommend the full commission approve the leak adjustment in the amount of $6,040.23 to the account of Marine Extension Service as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Do they have a new
motion
meter
second.
yet?
Sir?
Do they have a new meter there yet?
They do not have a new meter there yet. So in all likelihood, that may have been a little lower than what the actual water usage was because of the old meter.
Okay.
Did they receive notice, or did they challenge their first high bill that they received in June?
They did
Took
what,
them another month to get it repaired?
they get the bill a couple of weeks after the month end, and then they get that, and so it usually shows up on 2 months because they
Okay.
find out in the middle of the bill.
Okay,
With the new meters, we would be able to tell them the first day the leak occurred because there'd be continuous usage for 24 hours.
Right.
and
And since this was going down to the boat dock, I'm sure the water was going straight to the river or creek right there, and they probably didn't notice anything about it.
okay. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions? Show of hands, please. Carries 3-0. Thank you very much. Last item is for discussion of finance statement for September 30. Francis, you're up.
Thank you.
You should have the amounts right there.
Oh, do I? Oh, you're doing that. Thank you. Did you do that? Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before you are the financial statements as of September the 30th, 2021. This is a corrected copy. I do apologize for the errors in the previous copy. As noted before, the comparison column is still June 30th, 2020. After tomorrow, that information will be updated to the audited financials of 2021, so that'll show up on the next statement. The most significant change on the balance sheet this month is the issuance of bonds that happened mid-September. The trustee held account is now at $15.6 million. That includes the construction fund, which has just a little over $15 million in it. The capitalized interest fund, which is our debt service, that's at $581,670, and that is for 2 years, covers 2 years of the debt service. The cost of issuance, we have a remaining $10,181 left from the funds that had been set aside for that after the costs were paid. The cost of the issuance can be moved over to the debt service for the 2021 bonds, and we're still checking on what can be done with the 11,000 from the 2017, if they will be moved over into debt service or if they'll have to go into the sinking fund.
So is our debt service, is it already fully funded? Is that what you're telling me?
For the, yes, for 2 years for the 2021.
But it'll have to be more. We gotta keep adding something to it. Do we have to keep adding something
Not
to
for
it?
Not for
the,
the first 2 years on the new bonds, but on the new bonds, on the existing bonds from 2017, we make a transfer monthly to the debt service reserve
Okay. The new bonds fully funded?
for 2 years. And then in year 3, we'll have to start making transfers to the debt service reserve.
yes. midway down the sheet, under capital assets, our construction in progress is a little over 27 million. The June 30th, 2021 number was 21 million, so that's a significant increase in progress there. Current liabilities. I do want to note that our accrued liabilities is up to 182,000. That is due to a group insurance payable that we had to record June 30th for claims incurred but not yet recorded. Under long-term debt, we have 43.5 million. That is both bonds together. We have 27.7 on the 2017 bonds and 5.8 on the 2021 bonds. On to page 3 for a revenue summary. We are currently, as of September 30th, over budget by 450,000 on the summary. On the revenues. I'm sorry, that threw me off when it was scrolling. Sorry about that. The other income, I will note that we are receiving rental income from the former CBS property. So that is $5,500 a month. So that'll be an additional $66,000 that will show up in that throughout the year that was not accounted for, not anticipated back when we planned the budget. Page 4 for the expenses. We are a little over budget on that by $550,000. Most of that is capital purchases that have already been started. They're in the encumbrance phase, as it will take a little time to get some of this equipment in. That will level off as they've only been allocated 3 months of their budget for those capital purchases.
Well, we'll say some of our vehicle replacements this year, we've ordered them, but we got 40-week lead times on delivery of vehicles.
40 weeks?
So that's going to show up as an encumbrance for the vast majority of the year until it gets paid.
Wow.
And that brings our net operating revenue to over budget by $99,000. Any questions? Okay, page 5. Not much has changed on page 5. If you will flip over to page 6. The bond trustee revenues, again, that's showing the 15.6 million, which is the construction fund and the debt service, and the remaining that's in the cost of issuance. At the bottom, I kind of did a little summary here to show what's in our overnight, total of it's in our overnight investments held by trustees and our on-site cash. And that on-site cash is just some petty cash, our change drawers for CSRs, and a little bit of a change fund. As of September the 30th, we had 17 million in overnight cash. As was stated earlier, we initiated a transfer of $10,550,000 that was moved into Synova's short-term investments. That did not get, the wires did not get completed until this past Friday. So the transfers themselves will show up on the October statements. We just wanted to bring it to your all's attention.
That being said, we have 1 day liquidity with those short-term investments. We can tell them that day, they liquidate, we have the money the next day.
That's what I was going to ask.
Is some of that including the bond
No, sir.
proceeds?
The bond proceeds are invested by the bank.
Right, the bond proceeds are invested, but they're not part of this $10.5 million.
Okay. Do we know what kind of interest rate we're projecting to get with that?
With the bond or with the 10.5?
With the bonds?
7.9%, something like that.
0.7?
0.7%, 0.9%, something like that.
But lower for the overnight investments, right?
The-
The 9
the-
million. Yeah.
The short-term investments will be 0.71, the 10 million that we just moved.
And in selecting that particular form of investment, we wanted to make sure that we covered First of all, the fees that we knew that we would be incurring through BB&T now Truist, when we were moving that from the overnight cash, as well as the investment fees that would be charged to us by Synovus. So we took that into consideration to make sure that the movement of those funds wouldn't end up costing us money in the end, that we would still have some investment income from those. But as Mr. Burrows has stated, we also wanted to make sure that we had enough liquidity that if we had the need to draw those funds quickly, we could do so. So we took all of those factors into consideration when we made these decisions.
All right. On to page 7, our project report. The total expenses through September the 30th is 5.9. That is up 2.6 million from our August statements. 4.8 million of that total has been Project 702 North Mainland, Project 906 Academy Creek, and Project 2011, which is the lift station SCADA upgrades.
Can we take some of those off of this list now?
Not until they get finished.
The Magnolia Parks?
They're still waiting on final invoicing.
Okay, so.
So still the last check is coming, we can't
None of
take-
these are finished, okay.
Magnolia's finished minus final invoicing, but until we get final invoicing
Like the master plan update, isn't it?
And record drawing.
and record, well, master plan, we're testing the database out before we pay that last invoice out on the master plan.
And at the point that they are completed, they will be capitalized but moved down to the bottom of the sheet so that we can keep track of the projects that are completed and the expenses that we have paid out through the year.
For example, 4003 should be completed in the next month or so, but it'll take a couple of months to go through final invoicing and close out and everything like that.
So we got $26 million worth of work still to do. It's under the contract, is that right?
Yes.
But that includes the meters too, okay.
Any other questions or comments?
All good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the summary. Appreciate it. Any other items before the Finance Committee?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, the committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.